Good evening.
It's 5 o'clock by the council clock. Ain't quite by mine, so we'll do the council business. Declare the meeting open. All of you sitting around know the fire drill really. If there's one, please go through the door or the window, which is the easiest and quickest for you. And if you need help, obviously, Porter and everybody, whoever it is, we need to inform. There is no fire drill, so if anything happens, then we will need to vacate. Apologies, we don't have any apparently. Right, slowly turning up, there's no apologies. Confirm the minutes of the previous meeting, everybody happy? Did I sign them?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you very much. Let's just finish with that. There you are. Thank you very much. You can have that, yeah. Declaration of interest.
Sorry, Chair. Excuse my lateness. Claire Golby will also be a little bit late. She likely was stuck in traffic.
Yes. A declaration of interest. How do we declare anybody?
Yeah, listed, Chair.
Yeah. Purposes now of the two ships in the public, have we got any public consultation? No, no public consultation. Right, first report is the SLM annual report. And it's your good people.
It is, mate. Thank you very much.
Apparently we're on the screen.
You're on the screen now. Yeah, thank you. Just going to run through some overview of the performance of the contract for the financial year 16-17, the first 6 months of this financial year. As you can see, for the passport surgery performance year on year, we had a significant blip in 2015-16, which I reported to you last scrutiny meeting. The full year 16-17, we saw a 17% increase on where we were previous year, and at the moment the forecast for half year is that we'll break 3,000 passport surgery subscriptions for this full financial year. We're tracking, which is at the moment very encouraging signs. We may even break 3,200. The first 6 months tends to be quite a slow period for us, but as I say, we're well ahead of plan with the final quarter, January, February and March, expected to be, again, a very important time for us, and obviously hopefully some significant subscriptions in that period of time. Total subscriptions is just for the current financial year. You can see the different wards broken down. There's 441 passport surgery subscriptions in the super output areas as specified within our specification. They're broken down into the highlighted areas on the far right hand column. Again, this information has been provided for previous years, which is available should you wish it from Gurmak or myself. But again, for me, very encouraging signs for how the passport surgery scheme is going this year. Use statistic wise, that's not the full contract period, that's just the last 2.5 years. Again, you'll look at some of the use statistics. We are facing a challenge in our overall attendance at all 4 sites for several reasons, which they range from people's decisions now about leisure activities, local competition. As you're aware, Pure Gym opened the last 2 months. They've been pre-selling now for the best part of 5 months. There's new facilities now in Hinckley, which you might feel shouldn't have a detrimental effect on Nuneaton. It does, as I say. That's run by our biggest leisure competitor. So we are facing challenging times in our attendances. That's Eton and Jubilee. Again, there are some better news stories in some of the sites, but again, challenging overall in in our user statistics. Satisfaction results. You'll see from the information that's provided, there are some satisfaction issues to be tracking, still at 90% plus at Pingles in last year, and then to be 91% this year. Very, very pleased with that. Bedworth, slight improvement. We have got some challenges which I'm sure you will raise as questions for myself and Gerwin in due course. But as I say, to still be tracking 80% plus as a company, as a benchmark for us, we say it's 75%. So to be tracking at 80%, 90% plus, we're very pleased with that, although there are areas, as always, you can improve on. Jubilee and Eto, very, very pleased with Jubilee to be up in the 99 last year, 97 this year. It is a busier site. We're having more diverse activities happening in Jubilee, so that's pleasing. The one area of concern potentially is Eto. We have got some issues with car parking. That continues to be a real challenge at Eto for us. But again, you know, there are areas that we are looking to improve in negotiation with the school. Activity-wise, swimming lessons, two of our core activities, swimming lessons and fitness. Last year we saw a 1% growth. This year we've seen a 0.5% reduction. Is it concerning? Yes, it is. The concern we have is clearly there's people are choosing whether they want to continue swimming longer in our schemes. People are not going through all the way through our scheme now. They're considering that as they, should we say, can swim, they're leaving far earlier. The competition in Coventry has got it's far more competitive. As a company, we've recently secured the Warwickshire contract, so we are now competing with ourselves across borders. There are challenges with that, but again, you know, still to be achieving those levels, we're very pleased with to maintain that level. The concerning area clearly is our health and fitness business. It's a 1% reduction. It doesn't seem a lot, but if 1% is eaten away by our competitors with Pure Gym, you know, it is a significant, very heavily discounted competitor. I arrived at just after 4 o'clock this afternoon. It's not particularly busy, but you can certainly be sure when I leave in an hour or so's time, it's going to be extremely busy, and they're offering memberships at £10.99, nearly a third of our pricing. It is a very, very competitive market, and I'm sure the Empire will react as and Bedworth Leisure Trust, they will reduce their prices. We have competitive advantage. We have a pool. We're the only one in the area to have a pool. I believe our standard of service is far better, but at the end of the day, financially, people make decisions over their wallet, so it's a concerning area for us. We continue to have very strong partnerships in the local area. Nuneaton Bedworth Swimming Club, clear resident of ours, very, very positive relationship with them. Nuneaton Town Football Club, we still sponsor. CSW Sport, our team work tirelessly with that and with the authority on the whole of Warwickshire, looking at how we can develop our business. This year, last year our charity was Anthony Nolan. This year it's Mind. Again, we'll work in the local area to raise money. The senior team recently did a charity walk, 26-mile walk around Rutland Water. We raised £15,000 for Mind. So there's a lot of localised activities going on for Mind. And as I say, we're hoping to raise £250,000 for Mind this year, so something very good for the local area. And then Harriers, because it's alongside Pingles, again is a very, very strong partner with us, because we share activity space, we share a lot of promotional activities, so again, a very, very strong partner for us. And that, you know, just to stop. Cool.
Comments? Please.
Thanks for the whistle stop. Good to get over and very quickly. Passport to leisures. Just going down your graph. St Nicholas 148, Attleborough 149, then getting down to the deprived areas of Kingswood, which I represent, 40, Barpool, which I live in, 47. You're telling me that in Kingswood and Barpool we've got no passport to leisure, 17 students. So what are you doing to sort of try and get these sort of people? What are you doing to target these people in these deprived areas? I wouldn't class St Nicholas and certain parts of Attleborough where you've done a lot of work as deprived. But what are you doing in these deprived areas?
Yeah, I looked at the figures and they are alarming given the severe output areas. What we found normally is that in the white flint areas, people are more aware of things that are available for them. So what I've spoken to Everyone Active's communications officer is tasked him to look at these 6 areas and go into those areas to promote, not only just promote, but to do some things with the residents there. So what he will be doing, because he's just a new guy in post now, what he will be doing is going out to these areas, okay, promoting passport to leisure. He's trying to get some funding. It's called the Wellbeing Fund. Okay, so it's for 30 residents. I think it's per ward. It's to enable them to have access to facilities. Okay, so it's a 6-week program. It's to encourage 30 residents. Okay, to have access to things like health and wellbeing, mental health advice, and other kind of programs to encourage healthy living, and also look at passport to leisure. So I've made that his #1 priority, look at those, because obviously, again, I found in more deprived areas, you will have to go out there and show them what is available for them, and that's what he's going to do. So this will be over the next coming months, that's what he's going to do, to target these areas specifically, see where the downturn is and increase the levels up on that.
Can I just come back to that?
Yes, go ahead.
Right, to be fair though, Gilbert, I've heard that for about the past 2 years, 3 years maybe, and that's not happened. In them areas we have got community centres. I don't know if I can go in there and get a passport to leisure form, but I'd like to bet that I couldn't. We've got your early years centres, you've got schools. What are we doing? And every time I come here, I ask about passport to leisure. I mean, I would have thought, to be honest with you, you'd have been prepared for me today. But still, I've not seen anything there that impresses me.
I think if I can say that whilst I understand absolutely the focus on passport to leisure, the community engagement isn't just about passport to leisure, it's about, I appreciate you have super output areas, absolutely, but it's about the community engagement manager delivering activities across a broad spectrum. And if I had infinite resources, I could say that I could put somebody in those super output areas all the time. I've got 40 hours in order to improve the uptake generally of passport to leisure. And as Gilbert says, he has now been tasked with looking at these areas, but the increase in passport to leisure has been significant in the last 12 months through the tireless work of his predecessor. I'd love to say that I have the resources to put somebody in these all the time, but if there's far more material there, far more material out in the community. It's around the centres, it's on websites, it's on links to the authority's website. It is far more prominent, hence the fact the level of uptake we're getting. It's just the fact I can't commit a person to those high output areas for 40 hours. I haven't got that resource.
However, you can for St Nick, Attleborough and Weddington.
No, these are people who have signed up for it. Doesn't necessarily mean that the team have been into those areas. This is an analysis of people who have signed up, not necessarily where the activity has been completed. These are results of people who have taken a passport to leisure up, and we've therefore captured their data of what ward they're from. That doesn't mean to say that we've actually focused those areas. This is a result of the fact that during that period of time, that 6 months or 12 months, these people have signed up to a passport to leisure. That doesn't mean to say that the focus has been in any particular ward. It just means that's where people have signed up. So, as I say, the super output areas have had more commitment, but it will be down to, how would you word it, access to leisure, affordability. People will make decisions because they have more leisure opportunity, more free cash, etc., to come and use our facilities, and will sign up for Passport to Leisure. The fact is that we are still going into these super output areas and other wards is still happening, and it's not lesser concentrated on any particular area. It's just the fact that's where the analysis is coming from of the people who are signing up. That's all. That's what that graph shows. The graph doesn't show where everyone actually focuses or the authority focuses. It just says that's where your Passport to Leisure sign-ups are coming from.
I'll have to disagree on that. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Simon, these overview and scrutiny panels rely on the packs and the data that we're given to assess it. Sometimes though topics come up that people here are very familiar with. The last meeting, I think we were all talking about Bedworth swimming pool, about the leisure, and wow. And so there's a couple of things. One, the numbers on your pack don't tie up with our pack that is produced, which is the, basically it's all the main measurements for various aspects of the council. In fact, they're a long way apart in terms of the numbers. I can't square them at all. Even the satisfaction ratings don't tally up. And Nuneaton, for example, has had declining numbers for a long time, and it's fallen another 1,000 again this time. You cited parking, but the car park's always been the same size there. Nothing's really fundamentally changed. And this is another big drop after the previous year's big drop and the year before that. And when you look at the satisfaction, it's down to 80% here. But apparently, it's 88% for Bedworth swimming baths. And we all, were very graphic about exactly how terrible the customer experience is there, how filthy it is, and all the rest of it. And so if you're still measuring that at 88, 89%, how bad must it be at 80? This is the issue that I have. I'm looking at these numbers. They don't seem to tally with our and the public's actual experience. And I can't see why your figures should be different with ours. It's very confusing, and it's very difficult for us to really see anything other than a picture of decline here.
Well, with a great respect, your figures are my figures. The figures that we provide to Germany are those replicated in that. There's no difference, because your figures are born out of the figures that I provide.
But the numbers on the pages are different.
I can't answer that. All I can say is
that's one that maybe needs to be taken away by officers and...
Yeah, the quality assurance guy compiles this, so I can talk to him and see what method issues.
But so the numbers not tallying are one thing, but the other issue is about the continued decline in the attendances, particularly at Nuneaton, and the fact that we are still showing, great customer satisfaction. I mean, you talked about the satisfaction results for Pingles and Bedworth, and then for Nuneaton and whatever. They're really high numbers up here, 90s and stuff like that. But the experience, as we were talking at the last meeting, in respect to Bedworth swimming baths, it's a shame Claire's not here because she was very vocal and just can't take her kids there anymore. So I just can't square what you're telling us with the real world experience.
Well, there's two answers to that. One, the customer satisfaction is based on only responses. So therefore, if people don't make a comment, we're only basing it on a comment. So if somebody gives us a comment form, that form is analysed on whether it is positive or negative and what methodology that follows.
Okay,
Therefore, if 100...
Sorry, I think that's actually an even more worrying aspect then. If these are only reactive, we know that customer experience is people very seldom fill out forms to praise or say, yes, you were pretty reasonable. Why would you go to the people fill out forms to complain? And you typically have to wait for that and say, yes, if you took it on purely on the numbers that come in, it looks like we're giving a stinky service, but you have to realise that a lot of the submissions that people voluntarily do are negative because they've got an axe to grind, they've got a complaint, so you make an adjustment for that. In your case, you're saying, oh no, the vast majority of people that come up, in fact seemingly all of them, of their own volition just want to fill out a feedback form to say how great it was. That even more doesn't
what
tally
I'm
with
saying
the
is,
real
what I'm saying is that we can only analyse the feedback we get.
Yeah, and you're saying the only feedback you get is what people offer to you. They ask you to fill out a form. There's no attempt there to do a climate survey to try and survey everybody that comes through the door.
Well, that would be physically impossible. I can't physically survey 200,000 people through a door.
So what about a representative sample, like other organisations do?
What's a representative sample of 200,000 people? 1%?
5%, 1%, 10%? You tell me.
Okay. I think I understand your point of view, and from a point of view of that ability, all the comments we get are generally not, there's a balance of positive, there's a balance of negative. So yes, when you say that people will fill out a form generally to be negative, they won't always. We do get that. There's online. These are based off online feedback. These are based off verbal comments. These are based off customer comments, as in customer comment forms. There is a balance there. So that percentage there, the basis of the feedback required by the authority is that's how I have to report it. If I could, maybe I can look with Gerber, can look at a different snapshot. But
the way things are going with feedback, if more people are going on social media to feedback, and social media then rates what the feedback is, the score of it. Just to give you sort of an indication of how subjective this can be, I just had a quick snapshot and looked at Facebook ratings for the 4 centres that we got, compared to a few other centres, 2 of them SLM centres, one's Coventry. And the only, for example, Pingle's got 3.9 out of 5. These are all out of 5. Bedworth got 4.1 out of 5. Jubilee got 4.1 out of 5. And Eton got 4.3 out of 5. Solihull got 3.7 out of 5. That's an SLM site. And Coventry, the 87 centre, got 3.8 out of 5. So our centres beat them. The only centre that beat us on Facebook was Stratford, but they have a lot more things to offer.
Okay, can you email me the link? Because I've never seen on Facebook.
Okay, yeah, I'll
need to score.
But just to say how subjective this can be, if you go to Google reviews, we're actually higher than Stratford. So on one social media, it all depends on who feeds back where. So what I was thinking is trying to get these, because these are how people are feeding back now. They're putting comments on there, for example, what kind of experience they had, they'll just put on there. It's easy and convenient for them to do that online, to go to social media. So I'm trying to see whether we can find a way to make it a fair, consistent approach and using this feedback into the methodology that we use to, or SLM use, to feed to us. It's basically broaden the net as much as we can, or get feedback wherever we can, however they do it. It's really all is a case of how they're doing it, how they're giving the feedback. So we need to find a way to incorporate that as well, because it's a big net here.
Yeah, I think these are problems for you guys to sort out. It's just
absolutely,
the very simple in a nutshell comment is the numbers between the 2 sets of things don't stack, which is only you can look into that. And the other thing is the very high satisfaction ratings don't seem to tally with public experience and indeed the experiences of councillors. And I believe, Chair, didn't we write after the last meeting, didn't we make representations to the Cabinet about something needed to be done about? Yeah, so perhaps we're all imagining it, I don't know.
No,
and your surveys are right.
I'll come back to what we've been doing at Bedworth since the last meeting. Again, just to show how subjective these can be, I've got just a snapshot of this public comments made at Bedworth since our last OSP. I'm just picking the ones out regarding the actual swimming pool areas. This one person made a comment here: astonishing baths, clean compared to Coventry. Not a single piece of mess anyway. I will be coming back. Another one said, we live near the 87 centre, but came to swim here as it's much better. So these comments have been made in October. Now, since the last OSP meeting with the issues raised by some of the chair, I've been working with the manager at Bedworth, visiting every week to see the progress. And he has made a lot of progress. Now, first of all, what I did was I went in there, and the manager and myself, we looked around these areas basically with a magnifying glass, even looking at things like sealant, okay, and the grout and all that kind of stuff, really pinpoint. So he's done quite a lot. And I'll be honest, I've been going every week. So, for example, he's changed sealant on a lot of areas. There was some rust on certain parts. He's either took those parts out or actually got cleaners in to do them again,
I
basically.
think cleaners was the answer, really.
No, and when I say clean, I mean a specialist clean for rust. I don't know what you'd call them, but cleaners are there anyhow. But this guy who actually sorted the rust problem out on I think it was in the disabled swing, disabled changing rooms, the hoist of some kind. They sorted that out. Was it the hoist? Yeah. Yeah, I've looked in there. That guy's done that.
We did have quite considerable time. The reason we took it up with the Bedworth baths and the toilets and the showers were terrible. People were walking out and the ladies were either just getting showered and coming away and showering at home, whatever. And that was over a long period of time. You caught it at the end that the complaints had gone in and people were working to try and put it right. But I mean, the chair, myself and the vice chair was going to visit with you, but we didn't quite get round to get an invite to go to you. We could have walked in, I suppose, and made ourselves available and gone in and done that, but that wasn't done. So I mean, you put this in this report now, because I certainly was a bit taking it up on from the committee, because what we did do, I think we sent it to cabinet, did we? For investigation, at a portfolio to find out what has happened. And I don't know whether you've got a report back from the portfolio, because I haven't got one.
I've seen that report, but like I said, there's a whole list of things, what the problems identified and what he's done to rectify it, and what he's continuing to do. And I've took also environmental health down as well, because a comment was made about hygiene. That officer couldn't find anything of any concern about hygiene. What he did identify is that the floor area in the wet side changing rooms is like the way it is because previously bleach was used, which were at the top layer. So therefore, after that, they've used a non-bleach liquid, okay, which they have to use now. But even those liquids were causing allergic reactions to one person, I think, who complained to environmental health.
Okay, sorry, we're getting down into the weeds now. We don't need to know this. I think it sounds like you've gone there, you've gone around with the manager and you've taken some actions, but forgive me, you're being very defensive in some of what's, it's one person, there was no hygiene issue, environmental health were happy. We've had evidence that on the occasions that people turned up, it was far from that. And I don't think the chair and I don't think the committee would have gone to the almost extraordinary step of writing to the portfolio holder if there weren't real concerns. If you've turned them round now, then that's great. I think we're all very pleased to hear that. I think we'd still like to have that formal response from the portfolio holder chair, if that could go in the minutes. But yeah, I mean, we don't need to get you to explain every last detail. It's just good to hear that something's been done to turn it round.
Yeah, that's a finder of what you're our officer, council of you. What we want from you is a report back of what we've requested from you, you've done, and it has been done, and it has improved and things, and you're not getting the complaints. That's what we want from it. Yeah. And I also would have liked the fact is that a report from the portfolio, because we did send it there, we did send it to cabinet, and we haven't got it in. Because I'm a little bit annoyed as chair of this, when I look round and the reports that's coming to us, and we don't have officers sitting here, they just seem to do what they want to do. But this is the city council.
Chair, I don't think, just let me look at the minute, I don't think it was agreed that we would write to the portfolio holder.
I think we commented to the
I think the
cabinet,
officer
didn't we?
was supposed to take it back to the portfolio holder.
Same difference with the
Well, it is, yes, but
we need
it's
a,
not quite.
anyway, what we really do, you've had a complaint from this body. You're after, we want you to tell us that. Although the chair and I invited that when we do ask officers of the council, we do hope that they carry out what we request them to do. That's what we're about. And in future, if we are requested notice from there, we would expect you to do that. Now, we've moved on further down. Yes, sorry, I've got two. Lynn and
I'm just curious, how do you choose your charity?
Neil.
How do we choose a charity? The board, the SN board, have representation from any given charity. There's an advert goes out nationally, so we have representations from Anthony Nolan, Mind, and I think 6 other charities, and they go and do a presentation for the SLM board, and it's considered at that point who gives the most appropriate presentation. This year, because of the focus on, it was World Mental Health Day in October, that Mind was considered the most appropriate charity. And there's should we say, the presentation they gave, based on how we could support their local shops and them nationally, it was considered that was Mind was our chosen charity for this year.
Yeah, it's just going back to PCA subscriptions. Good news story. I just wondered if you knew how it arrived. The 115 Passport to Leisure Juniors, which sticks out like a sore thumb, from Camp Hill, was a tremendous result, but it's just completely different to anything else. So, you know, 207 subscriptions from the super output area. Have we got any idea why that happened?
It will be linked with the school, so therefore there'll be links with the activities they use, because we're neighbouring to the Harriers as well. It'll be how that's linked in. So a lot of it will be the community use of different facilities, where they hire, have they got secondary activities with the organisation. And once you get that relationship, it sounds obvious, but once you get a relationship with the school, it's quite easy to get into the school, to give presentations within their assemblies. That's what tends to drive volume.
So that's what needs to be done
Yes.
in all the other schools in the super output areas.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, hopefully it will be. Okay.
The other thing is, you've got the reports in front of you, although we've touched on this last attendance and whatever, and we're still on attendance, we've got community centres attendance in, and yet you look from 10,000, 20,000, and we've been talking, Shirley, regarding, if you look at these reports that we have in front of us today, the difference in their figures that's actually in front of us and what they predict what should be there, you're talking not on the community centre attendance, 10,000, 20,000, your aim is never going to reach it. I know you've got an aim and aspiration upward. I look at some of the reports, I don't know you all today, there's 1 or 2 of them on there. The figures are so high and low, and are we aiming, have we predicted ourselves too far? I mean, if you've got 10,000, you say 15,000 or 12, 15,000. To go to 20, you're never going to reach. So every time you come to the report, you're going to have a sad face because you're never going to reach your target. Who's setting the targets to reach? If you reach it, I mean, we would be over the moon. But it's never, ever been achieved.
Chair, can I say the community centre bit isn't ours, but with regards to our targets, we say it's 1% increase year on year, irrespective of the national trend. Ours is 1%, and we wouldn't deviate from that. And we think that's an industry guidance. That's what our business would be able to sustain is 1%.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I look at some of them and I think, I don't mind aiming up, that's what you're going to get, please do it, and we're quite happy to readily accept it, but it just, you seem to reach it, and when you get these reports in front of them, when we look at them, they look so far away. Why ain't you getting there? Why ain't you getting nearer? And it never, Chris.
Just that, Nuneaton Academy, is it SLM that runs that?
Yes.
Can you tell us why we've got nothing on that before?
Because it's literally the academy is our contract, it's completely separate. It's with the Nuneaton Academy.
Right, okay.
If it's requested, I can provide it, but it's because it's outside of the leisure management contract. I can provide that. It's not an issue. It's.
And do you do Passport to Leisures at the Nuneaton Academy?
Yes, we do.
Which is in Albury.
Yeah. It's considered, should we say, an attachment of our ability to promote Passport to Leisure within the Nuneaton area. But the usage figures, everything is completely independent.
Well, you see, the thing is, I live on Barpool, cross over the road, and I'm in Kingswood, and then cross over the road at the top of the road, and I'm in Albury. So I'm in the middle of all 3 of these groups. And again, it's saying pre-17 students, zilch. And yet you're in Albury. find it really confusing.
We just need the figures, Chair, because it would help if there are a lot of people actually signing up to Passport to Leisure through the school, and it's the Passport to Leisure figures we actually need as a committee.
I can't tell you how they sign up. All I can do at this moment in time is tell you the wards which they sign up.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to find out if there's a Passport to Leisure form in the Nuneaton Academy, or in any of the community centres in any of these wards or schools.
There's some at Grove Farm Community Centre.
I'm gonna check. I'm gonna check Orchard
Oh,
out
there
tomorrow.
was.
I'll check Orchard out tomorrow. And
Do you need information, Chris?
I need to know where these forms are, Chair, because after years and years of going on about Passport to Leisure,
Yes.
it doesn't seem to be getting anywhere. So I'll keep going on about it, having it minuted, coming back here, and although it's going up to 3,000 now, it should have been there. Should be there.
The forms are provided by Everyone Active. When Everyone Active over the summer have gone to schools and done water safety talks, and in that they've handed out passport, or thought about passport legislation and handed out passport legislation. So they've gone to the schools that you see on this report, more so on the supplement information that's provided about school swimming.
Yes.
So they've gone to each of those schools to do water safety talk and passport to leisure. So that way they've gone into schools and done that, promoted passport to leisure. Forms themselves are available from Everyone Active. If you're saying having them at the schools, then yes, I can speak to the communications guy to make sure that the schools themselves have some kind of supply there or forms, as they do in the centres.
Well, that would be useful, Gilbert, but also, if we can't put them in our community centres, there's something wrong.
So
In our community centres. I mean, we've got Orchard, you've got Kersley, well, you haven't got Nuneaton Centre now, have you? You've got, what's the other one?
Looking forward.
Yeah, you've got Saunders. There's other ones anyway.
that's where he, what I said at the beginning, Liam, the communications guy, he's going to go into these centres and these areas, he's trying to make contacts going to there, and then, so he's in those centres, in those communities, with promoting passport to leisure. So
And can you do the Passport to Leisure online?
No.
that's before, I think, yeah, it's processed before.
Reason?
Eligibility. You have to prove eligibility,
Yeah.
which you can't online.
Okay,
Yes, Chair.
right, thank you. Any further comments or any? Okay, thanks for your reports and turning. Go back to page whatever, 19, because we went over one because we wanted the reports all included in the officers speaking now, which is satisfaction with the council promotion shows at the Civic Hall, and they've got a terrible sad face, but we seem to have had a little note from somebody to tell us the reason why we've got that sad face, because we're not supposed to have a sad face, because the monies we've spent are only used to buy equipment. And so that should be happier. So can you please read out what we've been told? We have requested somebody to come in and give a report on all these things, but apparently comments passed to me was that we spent most of our time this weekend at services and we can't put too many more hours in. So they're not sitting here with us, so we've got an email instead. Please read the email while we've got a sad face.
Thank you, Chair.
I don't know. Thank you,
Chair.
The report was prepared by Finance with regard to the sums of money and the forecast outcome for the end of year, which, but there should be a variance of above or below 2%. And and the person that completed the form didn't realise there was a variance involved. So she gave it a sad face because it was down, but it is within the 2% variance, so it shouldn't have been a sad face. They said that the reason that it was down was because they'd had to buy some high value pieces of equipment for the Civic Hall, which included a star cloth, which I assume is a backdrop of some description, for £11,840, some stage drapes for £5,121, and some scaffold bars for £4,020. Had those items not had to be bought, then the budget would be within its predicted outcome. So that was their.
But at the January, the officers are bringing all their forward
The annual report
The
for
annual
the Civic
reports
Hall
will
will
be
come.
put forward, the officers, so you can delve in quite a yes. Welcome. Oh, it's all right, the traffic near it.
Given that the Civic Hall is a theatre, you would expect at some point that they would need to be purchasing items as listed. So,
Purchased it.
yeah, but why is that not factored into kind of the budget as is?
Can't answer that, Chair. It didn't say.
He hasn't got that.
Because you don't just wake up one morning and think, oh, we need a set of stage drapes.
No, they don't. I mean, obviously, the place is run and it's wear and tear and they come up, there's sometimes that they know they've got to purchase it. I suppose it's when the finances seems to be favourable where you can actually move in and do these things, because as you appreciate, finances are not the best thing of councils. Yes, I mean, but these are the things you can, I don't have that actually,
Yeah.
and as you see, Shirley doesn't.
No.
Until the big ones and the bigger questions you're going to have to ask when they're sitting here in front of you with a full report. And you will get all the reports, so all this should be in the full annual report in January. You can question what you need to do on the big scene. Okay, any further comments with regards to that? Okay, we'll move forward. What are we on next? Museum.
Yes, Chair. I've had an email from
The museum don't do too badly actually.
Catherine.
Chair, I'm not clear as to how we're progressing with this.
Sorry?
Shall we start at the beginning?
Yeah.
Page 14, we're going to go through the performance report.
We would have come to it. Sometime we would have come to it before we went down.
Just on the performance report itself, Chair, there is a couple of areas I would like to draw members' attention
Go on
to.
then.
At number 4 there, the regulation of investigatory powers, we have to report to the members on how often and when we've used those powers. And you'll see from the last paragraph there that there have been no surveillance operations at this time for this report. Underneath that, at number 5, you'll see the current rent arrears.
All right.
And this was requested at the last meeting, and you'll see when we get to that element in the performance report on the rent that's been collected. But with the universal credit coming in on the 1st of October, it was important to know what our arrears were before we entered into that phase. And so that figure there of £1,051,161 is what it was at the end of September.
Yeah.
So going forward now, there should be a report each time telling what, if anything, that change has been.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a question about it, but I'll save it for when we get to it.
Then, if you turn over, then you get the overview of the financial summary and the
Page 17.
and the performance measures that have declined remain the same and improved. The page 17 is the financial summary there, shows that there will be a variance of about £6,000. So actually at the moment this financial report's looking in
Solid.
reasonable shape.
Chair, just on that, the only one that seems meaningful is the 11,000 for community recreation, and that seems to be a good thing to overspend on, unless I almost dread to say it isn't the climbing wall, is it? The 11 grand.
I
Oh,
don't
good.
think
Okay,
so.
that's all right then. Thank you.
But I don't know. But I don't think so.
Any further comments now? Okay.
We've discussed the civic hall, and you've heard about the community recreation, community centres and so on and so forth, which then brings us to the museum.
When did we hear about
Well,
that? The community centre? Oh, in that.
Yeah.
unless there was something else you wanted to ask about it.
I do have a question the figures and why they're so vast up and they're not nowhere near the targets each time, whether they're aiming,
Yeah,
it's
that-
too high, you know what I mean?
That was a question I'd noted.
Yeah, it is.
Chair, I was going to ask how these estimates are done. Who does the targets? But I don't think there's anyone here to.
Well, from my
To say-
experience, the targets should be being set by the managers of those sections. They are supposed to speak with the performance manager, and they, based on the information that they've had from previous years and the issues or challenges they've got going forward, they should then come up with the target for the coming year.
Chair, the 2016 is a yearly figure anyway, and they're on target. So it isn't a 6 monthly figure, it's a yearly figure. So at the end of the second quarter, there's over 10,000. There's a slight drop at Stocking Ford, and there's next to no change at Kersley. But over the year, they should be very, very close to the yearly figure, providing they maintain the same rate of attendance.
What we'll do,
I'll ask about the target.
we'll talk to people with regard to targets and how they're set and what they're doing. Because it is, when you've got 20,000, in all sense and purposes, for quite a long time, you're never you've got a miracle to bang in another 10,000 people. He did explain a little bit from what the competitors we're against and all what's coming at us and the finance and new places and everything. That is a lot to aim. I think, in one sense, I'm trying to think, it's a little unfair to the people who've got to get to that, as much as although you want it, I've never seen it ever happen to get there or whatever. But if that's what they do, and we go through managers and performance managers and that's what they say, I suppose they're employed to tell us these are the figures that we can reach. I just thought they were pretty high. But there you are, museum.
The museum. You'll see there from the museum that there's been a little bit of a dip in the attendance or the visits to the museum. I spoke to Catherine, who unfortunately couldn't be here tonight, but she has told me that since this report, the figures on this report were put together, she's done some work on the footfall, and she said that the original dip was due to a lower footfall in July and lower traffic on the blogs because they've included the number of people visiting the museum blog and so on. But she says that she's done some remedial work on that, and as at the end of October, they have now come back within the lower limits of that target. So as far as she's concerned, they are now back on target. due to
Done a
having
lot of work.
done some work.
Okay, that's very reassuring to hear. What I was going to say is, it's not a bit down, it's 10% down, it's about 5,500 people
Yeah.
on last year compared to last year. And so it's good that the officers volunteered some information there that they're doing stuff to turn that around. The phrase on target, they definitely aren't, they're never going to get it to 86,000.
No,
To your
no.
point earlier, Chair, the target seems woefully unrealistic given that it's way more than they did even last year. I think, Chair, with your permission, I think we'd like to know a little bit more detail, an understanding of why it dropped off 10% in a year, because that's a big drop for any organisation. In a bit more detail about what she's done, the remedial work, and where they think that that will take us back to, and what they're going to put in place to make sure these drops don't happen again. Or is there something they need, like investment or whatever, to kickstart things?
Catherine is due to attend
She
January.
will be, Janet,
Right.
she will be with all the reports and all that.
Okay, so
I
we
mean,
can
I've
we can
over
ask
the
about-
years, the museum, they've worked damn hard to get everything.
Yeah,
sorted out.
it's a great museum.
We've never had a problem with the museum, it never crops up here, although figures and that and finances, whatever, they work extremely hard around to try and bring people back in, the children and everything. Got to give fair play to them.
Which is why-
They've never caused us really headaches or anything. So we'll ask that. She'll be here anyway, and she'll answer that. She's a good officer, good looking after that. Right, removal of private sector property hazards.
Mr. Chair, the officer has attended the last two meetings of this panel. If you read the information that he's provided you, it says at the bottom there that he's actually been provided some additional funding, and that he's anticipating that there will be a bit of an improvement over quarter 3 and quarter 4. So I would suggest that we invite him back if that's not the case.
Last time, Chair, the officers made the point that they've been missing staff and whatever for a long time, which is why they're not going to get anywhere near their target, and we knew that. The fact is they've done more last quarter than they did the previous year in the same period, so they are going the right way by the look of it. And I think we just wait until the officer's next back and we
See
get
what
that
happens.
update, yeah, in a
Anybody
few more
else?
months' time.
Yes,
It's just a question about the bed sits. It looks like they've done a lot of work with them because they're often not, they're often pretty dirty, aren't they? But it says they're not included in the reported figures. And I just wondered why that was.
I don't know, Chair. I would suggest that it could be the fact that they've not been included before. To include them now, if they've not been included before, would skew the figures. That would be my suggestion, but I can certainly find out.
we'll get that sorted. Anybody else with comments now? Okay.
Well,
Sorry.
So just going back to that, I think that's just the way that reads. We have increased the number of in shared bedsit type accommodation, but the figures haven't been included here. The start there, it says the team has increased the number of targeted enforcement inspections in shared bedsit types, right? And they're trying to drive up standards in the area, but those figures are not reported here.
Which, I mean, they're doing themselves a disservice.
They
though,
are,
aren't they?
yeah, by not including them, yeah. Chair, can I ask, on the page above, 24, what is 100? Is it 100%, 49? I don't know what those... Is that 25 visits, 25 enforcements, removal of private sector property hazards? I don't know what the figures mean. It's probably just me, but...
Are they hazards?
They're hazards.
That's the way I looked at it.
Yeah.
Hazards.
Well, I think the 100 is the end, the total year target, and the 25 is the quarter target, isn't it? The quarter actual.
No.
That's
Well,
the way I
that's
read
what
it.
it is at the end of the second quarter so far. After 2 quarters, they've done 25. And for the same period last year, they'd done 49, so
Yeah,
that's
about-
why it's a downturny face. But again, without them here to ask about that. The other thing we wanted to ask about, who was it who raised about the empty block of building? Wasn't you, was it you?
Probably.
Yeah.
It's one of the-
Yeah, and they were going away, was it Councillor Hay? But, and they were going to go away and look in, and they were going to make another effort to get hold of the owner of that and sort it out. And I heard that there was some good news from that.
Yeah,
And
that's
again,
Bedworth.
if there's a good news story, then they ought to be shouting about it, and the council ought to do a press release about that.
Did not come back to us.
Yeah.
I'm with Councillor Phillips on that one though, Chair. I think if we're going to have a graph, the axis of the graph should be labelled so it makes sense. Because at the moment, it doesn't make any sense to us whatsoever. It's a pointless piece of mathematics.
Yeah, I'll find out that. And the update on the property.
Chair, this one will always be a difficult one because they force private property people into taking the loans off, and then you'll see nothing, and then you'll see a great achievement at the end because they've took the money and they've improved the property and they've put it back into rental. So this one will always be up and down.
Up and down.
It will always be that way because sometimes it takes years. Had one in Wildwood that took years.
Okay.
Then the next one is the rent collection. Chair, as you see, it has dropped down a little bit, so it is a non-smiley face. But as I said at the beginning there, the amount of rent arrears that's in place, and I think it's a watching brief on this one.
Yes.
Chair, on that point, I think it is very important to measure the impact of universal credit. I know an awful lot of councillors were very keen to measure any impact that had. What we need to be clear on, though, is that the arrears figure that's quoted in there is up on what it was before, and that is because, as this graph shows, we continue to be slipping back on the rent collection percentage. So the trend is for a worsening situation and has been for some little while now. And so whenever drawing conclusions about what impact universal credit may or may not have, that needs to be offset against a deteriorating line. So if that line just carries on going the same way it is, you know, it would be very difficult to justify that was just down to universal credit because it's just more of what we were already experiencing. But obviously if that line gets much steeper down, then clearly, you know, you could look and consider that maybe universal credit has had an impact on that. But I'd just like to make that comment that right now we're already in a declining situation and need to measure any changes in the future against that backdrop.
Chair, I wanted to ask what, if any, measures we've put in place to maybe buffer and protect people a little bit from the consequences of the 6-week wait, particularly in terms of not just our own rent arrears, but have we spoken to housing associations, private landlords, and so on? Because there is a worry that, you know, a lot of people have been evicted, or a lot of private landlords don't want to wait. They just kick people out and get someone else in because they don't want to wait for the money. So do we have a plan?
Well, it says January, but we've now got that much on for January. I was going to move it to March, but if you want it in January...
Well, I just want, what I'm asking is,
It's just
have we got anything in place now, knowing that people are going to be waiting for 6 weeks with no money, and we know from news reports that people are being evicted, because private landlords particularly won't wait those 6 weeks when they can get someone else in straight away that they don't have to wait for. And we've seen an increase in homelessness. Do we have
need to invest that,
anything?
don't we? We need to investigate that one, I think that's very important.
Yeah.
Check it out. And I don't think we really can wait till March or whatever.
The,
Yeah, I will. No, go on. Neil first.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Couple of things. Councillor Jones is correct. If we are on an upward curve in rent collection failing. However, regarding the universal credit situation, we know which residents are all going onto universal credit as a separate entity to our normal rent arrears going forward. I think that's why that figure was brought into at the end of September. From September onwards, there'll be two figures possibly. Those that are suffering rent arrears since being on universal credit, and the overall figure of the rent arrears of everybody who actually is a tenant of the borough. There's two things. Secondly, the government had quite rightly, in recognising that homelessness and rent arrears is going to be a problem, have given the council some money. What I would suggest is a proper briefing at the January meeting of exactly how much we've attained from the government, what we're doing with that money, how we're tackling homelessness. You know, we need to sort of dig deep down now and maybe eventually have a working party also to monitor it. But this committee needs to know what we are actually doing, what the money is for. Is it to employ somebody else to, you know, I know we do very good work. I know we do very good work in working with landlords, both private, especially private ones, in trying to come to an agreement with them to try and keep their tenants in the house, you know. But it isn't out in the public domain. It's a lot of the good work that we do. I would like a briefing note to this committee.
Well, I'm just finding out which chief officer would
Jane, probably.
Jane B.
I was just saying to the chair that you've got the welfare reform item on your work programme and the impact that it has locally, obviously, on housing, so on homelessness and that rental income and that type of thing.
Yeah.
But the actual money side of it, I think that because the economic OSP have also got it on their work programme and they would be looking at the things like the grants and that sort of thing. So there's a bit of a crossover there. And if you were wanting to have some sort of work programme, working group, then I would suggest that maybe you would look at maybe having a cross group.
Yeah. But in the short term, can we have a briefing note to committee members here about what we've just discussed?
We'll have that sent through. Yes.
Chair, I would very much agree. I think we would like to all know what the council's doing in preparation for any changes to benefits, universal credit in particular, and exactly how much money has been given, and as Councillor Phillips said, exactly what for and who's going to do it and who's responsible and how we're going to measure that, because we have had incidences, not just us but lots of local authorities, where government money's been dished out in the past for transitional stuff, and you know, come the end of the year most of the money hasn't been spent. We don't want to be in that situation again this time. I think it's also worth noting that I'm sure in Parliament very recently they announced that nobody will make the 6 weeks, that actually it's a maximum of just under 5, i.e. a full calendar month. So, you know, people aren't going to go more than a month without their benefit.
Chris, and then
Chair, I'm just going to say this and then I've got something else to go to. I think just echoing on Caroline and Neil's really is we have got officers in place that do things, and I have used them quite a bit on a few of my residents. And I think that not only should all members know of what we do, how we do it and which officers to contact, but we need to be getting that message out to the public that we are here to help. And we don't just help council tenants, we do help people that are in problems. And we never ever tell people what we do that's good. And I just don't understand it. So for once, I'd like somebody to get somebody along to tell everybody what we do good. and it's Jane Beard and
We've
well,
moved
it's
that
not
up
a
as a
team.
committee, that information is required by the committee and it needs to be sent out and that you all in on that. That is passed by this committee, okay? Then it will go to done. She will then have to carry it out instead of go sleeping somewhere.
Yeah, publicise
Be
it.
careful on my comments, sorry. Good.
Yeah, a few minutes ago, members were talking about the amount of government funding that might be coming the way of the council, what it's going to be used for. I would also like included in that report whether officers feel it is adequate to cover the cost of exactly what we're being expected to do. Because it's okay saying we're getting government money and putting down what it's going to be used for, but if the money isn't adequate to cover exactly what we need to do, then it's not going to help the statistics in any sense or form.
Yes, any further comments?
Well,
No, what we're going to do,
we
we're
need to know
going
how
to,
much it is as well.
Well, we need to know if it's enough as well.
Yeah.
what we're going to do is send the report to the Lord and to the portfolio to ensure that this information is coming. I agree with Chris, we do need to know, you do.
Yeah.
That's what we're serving
General
for
public
people.
especially.
We're serving for people that we don't want them to be armed, and we certainly don't want them to be on the street. And we should know what's happening to all this stuff. I agree with you. So that'll be done, whatever, okay? Next
Thank you,
one
Chair.
is the relet of property to the end of the term, relets.
Yeah, that's smiling still,
That's
so,
come down right here. They're smiling on that, so we must be getting them out. And then we go on to capital programs, oh dear, we've got a sad face.
yeah.
Tell us why.
Well, I can only tell you what it says there, and that is that actually, it says targets have all been exceeded. If you look, the actual target for all of these, and we talked previously about the targets being set too high, well, in all of these, they've set the target at 90%, and so everything is above 90%, so everything, in normal circumstances, you would expect a smiley face. Why we've got an unhappy face is because we're looking at the trend, and the trend is saying that compared with last year, it's down a bit. So it's over target but down on last year. So make of that
What you will.
These faces are a bit childish, really, aren't
If I summarise that, it looks like we're down 1% on the kitchen and bathroom respondents.
I think, Chair, I'd rather see a traffic light system rather than smiley face.
But I think it's because it's not printed in colour, that's why we went off with the
Yeah.
traffic light system. We used to have the traffic light system, which save on
Costs.
coloured ink and costs. We've gone to the smiley faces, and I think everybody turns straight away and sees a downward face. They go straight to it, so I find it quite useful for people like that.
It prints out clearer, sorry Chair, clearer with
You
the arrows.
turn the page over, you've got a paragraph there, read your comments. Just read it on the back of that. HR shows increased surplus compared to budget. I'll do it one.
I think where some of the difficulty comes in, Chair, is that some of it is performance reporting, as in KPI, you know, like the PIs, and you know whether you're above or below, and then some of it is trend reporting, which, so it gets a bit confusing. You have to be sure about what you're actually looking at before you make any of your judgment.
Okay. Embassy risk register, we've only got 3
Two
red ones, haven't we?
reds.
Sorry?
Two
Two.
reds.
Two reds. We've only got 2 reds in there, so if there's anything else in there you want to have a crack at, please let us know. The 2 reds. Potential failure to provide adequate accommodation to meet the needs of the borough.
they? Chair, I was wondering, well, I wanted to ask, on page 38,
48.
38,
Sorry.
it mentions the cross-border delivery partnership. And I wanted to ask what that is.
Well, is there any more anywhere? No, so we're...
Chair, sorry.
Yes, go on, yeah.
Risk 10. All of them have got some additional planned, work, even if it's only to review, revise, and refresh the plans for the particular risk. Apart from risk 10, there's nothing planned for that. There's no revamp. Can we just ask why? If that's all. I mean, there might be a reason, but everything else has got a planned next step.
Okay.
Chair,
Yes, no.
risk 6, page 42. No sources of assurance as against what's going to be. We've got this in this particular case. We've got plans, but we've got no sources of assurance.
We have on the previous page 41.
They don't continue. Just a. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Because the plans comes under me.
Just the way the reports come out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
And there's the strategic performance report at page 48, which is the one that goes to Cabinet and is there for your information. And then the FOIs and the complaints by department, those that are outside of the response times. For information.
And then we come down to Bedworth. Oh, sorry.
Chair, I think
Yeah.
we'd like to know, we've had some training on GDPR. We'd like to know what impact that's going to have on the costs of the council in terms of FOIs and subject access requests. Has anyone come up with a cost? Does the council think it's likely to be meaningful? I know some organisations are anticipating getting huge numbers of subject access requests because there's no longer going to be the ability to charge people £10 or put up quite the same barriers to it that there was before. So.
Linda Jones is the manager that's going to be responsible for the GDPR. They're currently pulling together a document, I think, and I will ask her about the costs. I don't think we've done an awful lot of charging, to be fair, up to now.
Right, so it's not the money that we're going to lose out on I'm worried about, it's the fact that without people worrying about having to pay a tenner or whatever, there may be certain individuals who put in huge numbers of...
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yep.
All right now? So we're on the Nuneaton Borough Council's forward plan.
Sorry, Chair, just before we move on to that, about the complaints, there's an awful lot for waste management that went on for a long time. Do we find out?
I would say on the waste management is when they had the shorter drivers and there was miscollections and things like that, and it was causing a few issues over the summer period. So I'm assuming that's why the extra complaints have come in this year, because there were double collections, there were miscollections, and I do think a lot of people were calling in, so I'm assuming that's what has caused.
I think you're right about that partly, but it does go over about 7 months, so...
There was an escalation of it.
Maybe that's it. I mean, they're easy complaints to deal with.
You start at 6.
in as much as you give people the answer and this is what happened. It's why it took somebody 57 days to tell them we're short of drivers or whatever. That's my concern. It's not the number of complaints per se, because I think you're quite right there. That is the cause of it. It's just why it takes them so long to respond.
So that's the one forward plan that's I've had to make, they told me I had to make a decision on. Housing, share housing in Crusoe Street. A proposal for a shared private sector housing service with North Warwickshire Borough Council has been included as exempt from publication and urgent report for the 22nd of November Cabinet meeting. The proposal enables the way for Nuneaton and Bedworth to gain income for hosting the shared service. As the proposal was agreed in North Warwickshire only a few days ago, there was limited scope to share the proposal area. Also, if we can quickly agree to the proposal, we must ratify it by full council, and there is a potential to receive an income from January 18 rather than April 18, which will assist with the current financial position. The report is not published due to the HR issues involved in the North Warwickshire Borough. However, there are no such implications for Nuneaton and Bedworth staff. Council will already agreed the proposal by phone on the 14th of November in his capacity as chair of the housing communities. This is going to cabinet. Apparently, I had to make the decision that we can come to a shared agreement. I think the figure's still something like 30,000. And we've gained from doing it early.
What, Chair, which...
So I didn't mind
I'm
doing
not
it
with
in
you,
that way
Chair.
because it has to go, it just has to go to cabinet, so if anything from that or query cabinet would act immediately with regard to it.
Chair, can you just remind me what shared service it was at the beginning?
The proposal of shared private sector housing services,
Sheltered,
shelters.
no, shared private sector housing.
Shared there, as you said, not shared. Proposal shared private housing services.
Sorry, Joe, it's not about recording because we've talked about that now.
No, we ain't going to talk about it because it comes down Dane on the report. I'll just tell you what the forward plan was that I,
That is
that
what
to
the
me,
officer
to let the
has
committee know
provided.
that
Is
I
that all
will make
right
that
for it to be on the
decision.
recording, is it?
But, yeah,
So-
I'm
Okay.
assuming so, he's given it to the chair to
So it's
say,
gone
but
out.
obviously we can't discuss.
And I don't, we can't just, I'm not quite sure why Scrutiny chair had to make, but he did apparently, that's
We have
what
to be told.
the rules are, so, and that will now go up to cabinet for them to make the decision.
And full
Together with
council.
the full report, so they will deal with that, so.
Can you just explain what that actually is for me, please,
Oh.
Chair? 'Cause I don't
I
understand.
don't know, but it's
No, the
shared
title,
policy,
what's
but
shared?
Go to cabinet and listen to it.
Okay.
Right, I can't
Emailed
give
or...
something that I only know basically a bit out of it, it's not open for discussion, whatever. It's shared, apparently, I called myself because it has to go to cabinet, so I don't want to can do it. But, right, what else we got?
Then chair, we, move on to the work programme.
We've got the work programme in front of you. That's another YSLM report.
The Pride in Camp Hill was due to come next time, and NAB's got a strategic assessment. I don't think that's for January.
So which one now? So which one have we got
So,
then? Which one you put?
Community safety, no, maybe it is then. Community safety partnership.
You didn't want that?
The welfare reform on housing, it was down for January. I thought it'd probably end up having to come for March, but you said you do want it to come in January, so I will do that, and I think that probably the homeless item will be incorporated as part of that. So I'm going to sort of,
For you, Jack, but isn't the homelessness bit the separate bit to make sure we're complying with the Homelessness Act?
well, I think it was originally to see what the impact was going to be on homelessness, because we also had the issue at the time with temporary accommodation
Yeah.
and how much temporary accommodation we were using. But obviously, I just think it will sit in there with that report. If you want it to be separate, we can leave it separate.
Not particularly. I just think that's what what was set up for specifically, was to make sure that because that's one of the risks that we've got there, that or it's in this report somewhere. I spotted it. We're talking about, there's a risk to the council of not complying with the Homelessness Act.
Right.
This was to do with the budget though, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was our ability to deal with the homelessness.
Yeah, the cost
with the
putting people in bed and breakfast, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That's
And
not
we
this.
actually
It's good to cover the whole thing then.
I don't think we've had an update recently
You
on the
leave it till that
numbers
come forward to us, shall we
the
get it
numbers
all
that
in?
we've got, and I just think because obviously
We'll let it come in and
the impact of universal credit may have an increase in the number of homeless people.
Because it's quite a big subject, Chair. Because it's quite a big subject. Pride in Camphill annual report, can we move that?
Yeah.
And just keep maybe next meeting primarily for housing and the impact of welfare reform.
Happy with that?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking we said we'd have the civic hall and the museum to the next meeting as well.
That's we'll just have to have a later, longer meeting.
I don't think we'll get it all in 3 hours.
Oh. We'll do that.
So I'm happy,
This-
I'll be guided by you. If you want
Well, I
to
think
go with
this
the
is
universal
more
credit and all that, we'll do that, and we'll worry about the other stuff after.
Yeah.
We can always have another meeting if you need to.
We have
So
a
we'll
special-
put it in there, seeing if we need to go on or.
Is it not possible to have a special meeting of the OSB specifically to talk about the welfare reform?
Yeah.
Then you can keep to your programme that you've already got in there for January.
I can kind of understand that there's, the controlling group would like to make a lot of universal credit, but actually, if we come here in January and talk about it, nobody's going to have been made homeless because of it by then, because the figures we will have will be up until the end of November at best. And given it, the first person can't sign up for it until the start of October, can't have started, they just won't have had long enough for anyone to have fallen through. So it would seem like just being politically opportune. If you want to talk about actual data that's happened, then great.
Chair, this is above politics. Homelessness is very, we're not saying, I am not saying universal credit is going to cause homelessness. You are quite right in the fact that we might not have any figures by November. However, the subject is serious enough to have a meeting. We have 60 odd people who are homeless at the present moment in time, who are in temporary accommodation. I think that is a serious enough issue to have a special meeting.
So is that what you're asking for, as for to have a meeting about homelessness
And
or
welfare.
about the welfare
Both.
reform? It's one or the other.
No, it isn't. It's both.
Chair, I formally
They don't
propose
necessarily-
that we have a special meeting to discuss welfare reform, which may well include homelessness within it.
Seconded.
I'll have a look. Do you want it
I'm
before?
sure there's a date available somewhere.
You want it before December or before Christmas or?
No, after Christmas.
After Christmas. Okay, yeah, well, we'll look at the two of them and see what we can pull together and then let you know what's happening and get your views and do whatever. Yeah, we'll have two in January. We'll have two in January, all right, happy? Yes.
Yeah, I'm just going to make sure that the harder to let properties is still going to be on the agenda because, you know,
Yeah.
this, we need to get the revenue in. I mean, you've got some of these properties that have been empty for 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
We need that on here, and I'm just making sure it's going to be there.
We're not suggesting the next meeting is cancelled, we're saying we want another special.
No, no, I didn't say that. We were going through it and we stopped.
No, we'll make sure the agenda as it is. At 2 meetings we put the meeting
I would
together,
think as
so
it's
they
a
will be on.
housing related issue, it might
Yeah,
as well
so-
come in with the other. We'll have a housing related
We'll get
special
more
meeting.
off for
Yeah, I'm
our
just making
agenda,
sure
the
that-
other
because that
one,
one-
the other one.
It's
And
vital.
second to that, Chair, and nothing to do, not having a go at any officer or anything else. I would like to see some housing officers present so that they can give their view on the situation as well, or finance officers,
It's
whichever are relevant.
Well, we're at the committee. I have made comment, Jim, I have done this. I just don't know where to go now, to get officers to come to these meetings.
I've just
They just don't
suggested we
turn
ask
up, they
them.
tell you, they say this, and they send you letters and everything. I'm pulling well, I ain't got much left to try and get people to sit at these committees. And I'm, well, I just make me mad that the fact is that when we requested as council elected members of committees that they should attend here, and they don't bother. Nobody tells them off, nobody disciplines them and do that, and they just keep coming. So, I don't know. But we will try again. We will do everything in our power to try and get people to come to the meetings. Well, there will be the big one in January, because they've all got the reports and they have to be here. But we will, anyway, we'll put those two together, put the agenda as written down to make sure both committees have got, so compatible to what we're discussing on today. I thank you all so much for attending the meeting. Please travel home carefully.
We can't go on like this. This is